Okay, this is part one, the crown. I have 4 videos about my cosplay, the alien queen costume. There's the crown, the body armor, the legs and tail, and then there's the why. The first 3 videos are just about the build, mostly. The why explains why I did it and has the live action video. So basically you could skip around as much as you like. I'm not going to talk about why I did some of the things I did, but I'm just going to talk about how I built this thing. So I did probably about 100 hours of research. In fact, the newest video I've seen about building a xenomorph was just put on YouTube 2 months ago. Everybody starts at the top. Whether you're building the queen or you're building the one of the xenomorph drones, workers, soldiers, I think is what they really call them. You always start at the top. So I wanted the costume to be a part of my body, in a way, so it would fit my body. So when I sat on the couch, and I was thinking about my crown, because the queen's crown is such a big deal, I would hold my hands straight up in the air in a V shape, and it's like, this is how big my crown's going to be. It's got to be this big. And actually the crown was bigger than that, but it's kind of close. I mean, you're not too far off, especially if I'm thinking about my face and then I'm thinking about this, my arms, as far as my arms can reach, being the extension. So I started with, I haven't made a lot of costumes before, so I started with paper mache. Do something I think I know how to do, because I've actually built a piñata before and that sort of thing, so I can do paper mache. So I got some balloons and I blew them up, and I got a lot of free newspapers in London, the Metro and stuff, a lot of newspaper laying around. So I cut out strips with scissors, and I've got Mod Podge, and I sit down and I'm gluing strips of newspaper down on a balloon, and I let that dry, and then I get up the next day and I do a second coat again, and then I've got this black gloss paint just laying around. It's a small tub of paint. I think I was planning 6 or 7 years ago when I first moved. I was going to paint part of the banister that is metal black, and that's why I bought this paint, and I never used it. Anyway, it's just still here. It's just a small tub. Boy, did I use that paint on this thing. You can buy some really expensive paint from the art supply store, the stuff they keep locked in a cupboard. It costs a lot of money and is imported from California, and I used 2 of those at the end, 2 of those cans. And I'm telling you, what was it called? It was called some radical thing called Damage or something. Anyway, it causes cancer, big cancer warning in the back of it. So you're not supposed to breathe while you're spray painting anything anywhere around it. It just doesn't look good enough. It's not good enough. This cheap stuff, it takes 2 days to dry because it's oil-based, but boy, does it look better than any of that really expensive stuff that you could spray on. And the whole point is looking good. So there's no, you'll work it out. This is something I worked out. So I would start with the crown. Cardboard. I mean, I'm always doing little projects and building things and buying stuff. So, I had lots of cardboard laying around because one of my, art projects is doing this thing with mirrors. And so I was buying all these mirrors, and I would buy them one at a time, and they would send them to me in this massive thing of cardboard. Anyway, I'm getting the cardboard together. And I'm trying to, I'm looking at pictures, and I'm looking at designs, and I'm cutting out this shape, and I've got the 3 horns at the top, and this kind of really pretty radical, well, not radical at all, but hexagon type shape to the top. I want it to look very geometric. I have pictures of my first crown. You're going to see them, probably. I have them. And I get craft board, which is terrible. Craft board is, I think they call it a Stanley knife killer, because it's heavy. It's made of fiberglass. So you take your Stanley knife and you're cutting pieces out, and your Stanley knife will get dull in less than 5 minutes. I mean, it's got fiberglass inside. It's going to kill your Stanley knife. So I'm putting on, but I can't even get a piece of cardboard that's big enough. So but I think, okay, I'll glue pieces together over and over the top of that, and I'll build it so it's kind of strong, and there's got these flaps. Eventually, I when I was working on the top part of the horns, I was looking around and I saw this girl. She was making horns out of aluminum foil, or aluminium if you live in Britain. And man, can you do anything with that? I mean, and you can make a horn, out of foil, which is really easy. Just wrap foil, and you can bend it and make whatever you want with it. And then you take masking tape and you wrap masking tape around that. And I even took it a step further from that. I got polyfiller. Now you can buy the polyfiller in the powder, or you can buy it straight out of the tube. You get whichever way you want to do it, make it, and rub that on the outside, and then sand that down. Boy, you make a really, really good looking horn like that. And so everything was going. This is I started at the end of January, worked all through February, and we're getting into March now. With the balloon that I'd blown up. Okay, so I cut a hole in the back, and then I cut a hole in the front. And then I'm trying to figure out, so then I start slicing on the sides to see if I can figure out a way to make a jaw and make a top. And it got really frustrating. In fact, I got so upset with the first balloon, I went ahead and made another one just like it. So I blew up another balloon. And it takes 3 hours to cover those big balloons in newspaper and glue. A movie and a half. So you do that one day, and then the next day you do it again. You want a second coat to make it strong. And the way how you could do a first coat on top of the second coat is you take a black mark, a Sharpie, and you draw lines like a melon, like you were cutting a melon. And you go, okay, I start here, and you start gluing all the way around. And when you run out of line, then you've made it all the way around the second time. So you do that, and then you paint it again. It takes 2 days for the paint to dry. And then you try to cut it again in a different way. And I don't know, I had a coat hanger laying around. So I thought I would use a piece of wire, and I bent a piece of wire. I was trying to bend that to kind of look at the jaw, the way the jaw is, it's this definitive shape for the jaw. And I thought if I could just get the jaw to stand up, and I was trying to glue this stuff down to it. And working with the I got this very beautiful vertebrae design for the craft board. I'd never made vertebrae before, but I found it it's very pretty, very pretty. And I made something that looks really pretty, and I attached the bicycle helmet to that bit, and I had the bicycle helmet really set quite far back on it, not as far forward as it would be when I made. But, I was still thinking that I was going to look through the front. Because if you see all the Queen costumes that people are wearing, all of them, no exception, all of them, the person is, the face part is almost attached to their face. And they are looking through it. And while that sounds like a good idea, and I it's a good idea, obviously, it's what everyone else has done, was never going to be good enough for me. Because it's not anatomically correct. Her face, her face is just as slim and thin, and slim and slender, thin as the Xenomorph drone. It's a thin face. Eventually, I got so fed up with all the cutting and the balloon making. I took that coat hanger, and I just started wrapping it around my fist and wrapping it around and around really tight until I had something the size of, maybe 4 inches high and less than 3 inches wide. And I was like, that's the face. That's her face. Her face is no bigger than that. That's her face. And it's not going to get any bigger than that. If I thought I was going to just stick this around my face, it's not happening. It's got to look like that. So I got this bicycle helmet. And I bought the one that has the slats in it, ventilation slats in it. I didn't just rip the bicycle helmet apart and just use like the skull cap. I think you would use that for Xenomorphs, that tiny little bit. The reason I bought it with the big slats, I also bought this black elastic. I probably bought about 3 meters of it. It's really cheap. It's got so many uses. My idea was that I would be able to glue the elastic down to the inside of the crown, and then thread it through the bicycle helmet and tie it on. And I bought a glue gun. I'd never had a glue gun before, and the price varies from £5 to £55. And so, what do you get? If you look at reviews, well, the people who buy the £5 say, well, it's good for what it is, and then you don't know what to do. I went middle of the road. I actually bought one for £25, and it's one of the top brands is Bosch Bosch, I think. And so that's it's a good glue gun. There's no problems with it. I have burned myself on quite a few occasions with the glue gun. You will learn. The accidents will happen here and there, but I haven't done no permanent damage. Amazing, considering how badly I burnt myself one time. I thought, wow, that's gonna be a permanent scar, but now I'm looking at my hand and it's not there no more. So, it wasn't a permanent scar. I spent best part of 30 to 40 pound in glue for the whole costume. The glue sticks. And super glue, and Mod Podge, and liquid concrete I used as well. So you just keep, there's lots of glue involved in something like this. So I've got the first crown, and even though I don't have the first face part of the crown, I've got the first crown, and I just kind of glued the bicycle helmet. Glued the elastic strap onto that and strapped in the bicycle helmet. And I've got like a little bit of a cardboard piece in front of my face, just a little bit, with not the actual face part at all. And I strapped this thing on. And I did a lot of work. We don't need to discuss everything that went into this crown because everything I did was wrong. I put it on. And I'm like, I don't want to wear this 5 minutes. I'm not going to be able to wear this 5 minutes. It's only cardboard. Oh, and craft board. And layers upon layers of cardboard to make it strong. Boy, is this thing strong. You could kick it. It's really very, very strong. And unfortunately, very, very heavy. And so that was it. 2 months work on the crown. I still have nothing. Been working, with the face part as well, and still not doing too good with that. So after tying a coat hanger around and then duct taping that and just trying to figure out how I'm going to make the jaw, I was looking at models, people who make models of the Alien Queen. And I saw something. I will make sure I put this in credit for this. They were making a model, not something you could wear on your head. And the teeth were made out of crystal epoxy. Now, I know a little bit about epoxy because I've had to repair things that broke. And that's the best way to repair something is to use epoxy. You get this super hard glue and this, tube A and tube B. And you mix it together and stir it up. And it's really hard, epoxy. This is crystal epoxy. This is what they use to make jewelry out of. You can't buy crystal epoxy for less than 30 quid, but that's fine. No. It's really okay. Because when I first got it, and I looked at it and go, what? Because it's a lot of money. You also have to buy kitchen scales. If you don't have kitchen scales, you're going to have to get some. because you mix part A and you mix part B, but they don't weigh the same. So what you want to do is you want to get little plastic cups. I have those little lightweight plastic cups already. You put A and you put B. Yeah, you've got to get the mixture just right. And then if you don't get the mixture right, it will never harden. So you have to weigh each mixture, because you got 1 part this and 2 parts that, but they don't weigh the same. And then you've got to mix it together. And then when you mix it together, you've got to stir it for 2 minutes to make sure it's really stirred well. And then when you're done with that, and of course, especially in the stirring, you create a lot of bubbles. You got a hair dryer, and you heat it up until you've blown out all the bubbles. And then you're ready to try to make something. I watched people make teeth out of glue, with a glue gun and stuff. I watched, there's all kinds of, nothing beats the crystal epoxy. I think I got a lot of compliments on that, but I knew I would, for sure, because nothing beats it. I mean, just the crystal epoxy teeth are crazy. So I never made a mold before. I've got a lot of polymer clay laying around because I'm doing some other little art project things. And so what I did to make the teeth was I made make polymer clay in the shape of what would be the mold, but I didn't bake it off because you don't have to. So I just made the mold, and then I took grease-proof paper and lined the inside of the mold that I made, and that's what I poured it into, and that worked every time. And what that means is that because you didn't bake it off, you can still, when you strip it all apart, you can still use the polymer clay. You didn't, so you still got that. I was trying to explain to someone, I spent £30 on the crystal epoxy glue, and I spent a month making mistakes trying to figure out how to do the mold properly. How to make the teeth, and then I made the teeth, and then you could make 5 times the amount of teeth I made, and that would maybe, I don't think I used half the crystal epoxy is what I'm trying to say. And I made lots of mistakes and didn't get it right. For over a month, I was messing around with it, wasting a lot of it, not figuring out exactly how to do it. So the basically what I'm saying is £30 will go a long way. A long, long, long way. I also used the polymer clay that I had, and I used glow-in-the-dark polymer clay to do the gums. So you make the gum shape that fits inside the mouth, and you press inside so that you've got the area that the teeth are going to fit in, and then you take your, and once you've got everything, you bake off polymer clay. Temperature's really low. It's like 180 degrees Fahrenheit. Very low temperature. Preheats really fast. Put it in the middle of the oven. Make sure you cover the top, because they actually say that with a lighter color it could burn half an hour. And no, it didn't burn at all. Half an hour, and then you let it cool. You take it out. You glue it into the mouth, the gums, and then you glue the teeth in, and it's good. It's permanent. But I also did the design. I did a design in the lower part of the jaw of her mouth as well. And that was like a rib cage design that she has inside. The other thing I did with the crystal epoxy teeth, I bought clear nail varnish. I didn't know if this would work, but I bought clear nail varnish, nail polish, and I painted the inside and the outside of the teeth, which gave it, they were just a little extra shiny. Whenever I've taken pictures of the gums and the inside and the teeth, because it's glow in the dark, as you turn off all the lights and you look at it, it looks amazing. But whenever I try to take a picture, the picture flashes, and so you don't get to see how amazing it is. If any photographer, anybody knows about photography, they can explain to me how I could take this kind of picture so that you would actually see the glow in the dark quality. I'd really love to do that, because I could take the photograph then. I just can't figure out how to do it. I'm not a photographer. I had to start all over again with the crown. And so I realized that, I had to keep looking around. I saw this one guy, EFX, and he makes everything out of, he just does the most stunning stuff out of cardboard and styrofoam, and it looks amazing. And I watched lots and lots of his videos, and I decided, oh, okay, well, I've got to make the crown not weigh as much as it does. So, no overlapping anymore, no strength anymore. We can't do that. So I was like, I'm gonna need one large piece of cardboard, not 4 or 5 large pieces of cardboard that I mix up and cut out. It's got to be one great big piece, and just one where I could maybe cut into it and put little bits, add little bits on it, but no weight. And so I need something as big as like a refrigerator box or something really large. And I got really lucky, because as I got on the bus one day and I was going shopping into town at Forest Hill, and I was on the bus one stop. I was on the bus, and I saw somebody had this great big huge cardboard box set out with their garbage cans, and I was like, I got off the bus, I grabbed that box, because I didn't know if it would still be there on the way home, and on the way home I would have had my shopping with me anyway, so it's a better idea. So I grabbed the box and I went home, and then I went back out and I went my shopping. So one great big garbage box, one side of the great big garbage box, that is the dimensions of the whole crown. Nothing else cut into it and pasted onto it, except for the vertebrae. I did put the vertebrae on top of it, but the side pods are very deceptively cut around, and then it's pushed through. So it's very deceptive in that it looks like it's got a lot of space to it, but it's actually just one piece. I've worn sombreros that were heavier than this all day long. So now I'm finally getting somewhere with this. The midsection, they have this big cut-in part for the midsection, and I used little bamboo. You take bamboo skewers and you break them, and then you use the hot glue gun on the knuckle part of every break to reinforce it and hold it at that break. And then for the actual big horn, the one that goes right through the top, I had a lot of vegetable garden, bamboo pieces, and because I grow my own tomatoes, and you have to support the tomato plant. If you want fried green tomatoes over here, you have to grow your own green tomatoes. You're not going to buy them anywhere. So that I used one of those as the main horn. So I glued that underneath the crown. I actually measured it, and we cut it just right to size so that it would fit under the crown. And then, of course, I used a lot of aluminum foil around the outside. I was spreading that foil around, and ended up spray painting and then painting over that as well. So that's my horn. For the top part of the bit that you can see through almost, you don't really see through, but you can almost see through it, is just foam packing. But you can buy that really cheap on eBay, and you get like the biggest roll you ever saw. I guess because people need to use a lot of foam packing. So you've got the foam packing. In order to glue down the foam packing, you have to use special glue. Either use Mod Podge or use the concrete glue. The problem with the concrete glue is that it turns yellow and ugly. Ugh, nobody wants that. So the concrete glue really is for styrofoam. You shouldn't use it for anything else. You need it for styrofoam, you can use it for styrofoam. You don't use it for this like foam thing. But I did Mod Podge, and because I didn't have any clamps, I actually used hair curlers. The clamps that you use for your rollers. I actually don't have any other kind of clamps. So I actually put all these clamps, I put the glue on, and then I wanted the foam to fit onto it properly with the Mod Podge, so I'd have to clamp it overnight and then take it off. And then at first I spray painted it black, and because you couldn't see through it anymore, it looked really dingy and weird, so I ripped it off and did it all over again, and glued it back down. And this time I spray painted in silver, just very lightly in silver, so at least it would have a contrast as well. All around the edges of the crown I did with aluminum foil that I glued down. You could hot glue that stuff down. And then I would shape it, like try to shape it. And then painted that black. Some of it, not all of it. I kind of wanted the silver to show through. I took lots of, I bought some black gloss electrical tape. Some people even have this stuff laying around. And I cut little diamond shapes. Hundreds of little diamond shapes. Just all day, cutting and cutting and cutting for days. And made just little diamonds to go around it to kind of just try to give it some sort of detail or whatever. I really hated it. I sat back and I looked at it. I looked at what I was doing. I looked at it and I said, just looks like somebody took a piece of cardboard, cut it up, and then spray painted it black. Oh, honestly, I'm my own worst critic and I hated it. I didn't know what to do. So eventually I came onto this idea that I would take, I got some black gloss contact paper from B&Q. Really cheap too, man. This is I can't remember if it was £5 or £10, but trust me, one roll did the whole crown. And then I just bought a second roll because I thought I did actually use the second roll for the tail. So I used a lot of detail for the tail, and somebody asked me, how'd you get it so shiny and black and wet looking? Yeah, that black contact paper is fantastic. It's a bit annoying because I have to cut out I've already made the thing. So then I have to make a pattern and cut it out of what I've made, and then then invert it and put it onto the back of the contact paper and cut it out. It was annoying, but it was worth it. All the effort, it was worth it for me. I'd never made anything before, so of course I'm gonna do everything what I would call ass backwards. If I'd known how I was doing this, I would have made the pattern to begin with, and it would have just made everything go smoother. But I didn't do it that way. The jaw is something that perplexed me right from the beginning. I just didn't feel happy with the way the jaw looked to start with. Eventually I decided on the V shape, the smaller V shape kind of design. But I also wanted to get that little bit of the chin that jutted out. And that was always a bit tricky to get the chin out. I tried different things, and eventually I never got the chin to jut out that much, but it had just a little gradual bit of chin. All the little band things that go around the top and around the, a little bit of designs around the bottom. I spent a lot of time doing that. It's very easy. You could just take little pieces of newspaper or something and, roll out strips for that. Or you can just do it with tinfoil as well. I think I probably used more tinfoil than I did paper. Might have started off with paper. Eventually ended up using tinfoil for practically lots and lots of things. So I would go around with the tinfoil and then glue that down and I made all these little intricate designs. At the end of the day, it didn't matter because I was going to be ripping that thing apart so many times. I was practically destroying the design every time I did it. I had seen someone on the internet. They were making like a wolf costume or a fox costume, kind of masks. And what they did was they had elastic on the inside, and they had attached the chin part under the jaw, so that when you opened your mouth, it would open too. And I love that idea. I really do. I love that idea. I couldn't do it with this. I did try. I thought about it, and I did try to look at how to do it, how I could maybe fix this thing underneath my jaw so that when I open my mouth, it would open. I could make it move that way. Having something shoved right up against my throat like that, I thought was a security risk. In case I fell over, I would slit my own throat. Honest to goodness, I really thought that was a reason to not do it. But I still wasn't against having the jaw open and closed, because I could attach a bit of elastic underneath the jaw, on the outside underneath where no one can see it, and then put a string on it. And then I could just pull. I would just be able to pull the mouth open and close, and then have the elastic on the inside that would make it snap shut. Well, that's a great idea. I couldn't make that work either. I did make a hinge. I had 2 pieces of wood, long pieces. They're called paint stirrers. I bought them on the internet. In America, they give them out everywhere for free, but in this country, you have to buy them on the internet. And I bought them on the internet. And I had 2 of them, and we cut them in half. And my daughter drilled holes in them on each one. And I took them to a hardware store. I told them I was making a hinge. They gave me the screws so that it would work. I fixed that to the inside of the jaw after I finally got satisfied with the jaw. I fixed that at the inside, and it would open and kind of close. I could get, and then I started having trouble with the elastic, getting all kinds of elastic. The stuff that they use, that I've seen other people use, I couldn't get for love or money in this country, and I tried really hard. Some people, so a real proper elastic. I ended up trying different things. I used a jeweler's elastic to begin with, that you use for bracelets and stuff. I did that in several tiny, beautiful little strips. And I thought, well, this is going to be really lovely. And I had 6 meters of that at the end of the day. And it was just way too much trouble. And I kept breaking the jaw over and over again because I still couldn't get it to set right. Eventually, I had to decide with the jaw that I was not going to be able to open and close it at will. And so I'm gonna fix the mouth. I'm gonna fix the jaw so that it will be kind of not open all the way, but not closed all the way. So kind of in between. And so tighten the screws up as much as I could. And then I'd get out the duct tape and just go around that whole area there. It was the best I can do after all this fussing and fighting with the jaw. And so I had it set like that. Half open, half closed, but that should have been enough. So now we get to have fun with the tongue idea. I can't build a motor. And that's what everybody else does that you see that has a retractable until they got a damn motor. And I can't even build a hinge that works properly, let alone a motor. So, my idea was to buy a boxing puppet. I bought a boxing puppet. Boxing puppet was something that was really popular back in the 80s. I had a boxing Santa. I remember it was like Santa Claus with boxing gloves, and you put your hand in there and you press and he punches. His arms punch out and stuff, and that looks really, really good. Eventually, I managed to get one on eBay, and they're not cheap anymore. They used to be cheap, they're not anymore. I guess because they're considered to be some sort of vintage toy. I think I spent like £15. I spent £15. I'm ashamed to admit I spent £15 on it. Anyway, when I got it, all I knew I was going to do is take it apart and then break it in half. Yeah, that's right, break it. So I broke it in half, and then I looked at the punching glove, and I was like, okay, so I got some black polymer clay, and I put that around, and the idea for the little teeth, because I can't do the mouth, the little tongue with the biting mouth that people do, and because she's got these gorgeous crystal epoxy teeth, to take little teeth and spray. I even bought little silver nail polish, really shiny metal silver nail polish I was going to use to make the little. No, it's not good enough. It's not good enough. I decided that the way forward with this is mirror glass. And I probably got this idea because I've been doing crazy stuff with mirrors, with other stuff that I'm working on. And mirror glass would be the only way to go. So I was going to break a mirror. I was looking around and stuff, and I got lucky again. I was walking to town shopping, and somebody had thrown out a broken mirror. Now, mirror glasses, that's a bit tricky. So I actually went to the shop, and while I was there, I got a 5-piece Sainsbury bag and brought that with me, and I picked up a big piece of the mirror, and didn't need a big piece, but I just took one big piece of mirror and put that in there, carried that home. So you wrap that up in newspaper, and you bang it, and then you keep looking at pieces, and you keep banging away until eventually you get what you want. And so I made the little prototype of the tongue, with the clay, and this is looking good. So then I took the pieces off, and I baked off the clay, and then I hot glued it back on, and then for the teeth, getting them, I actually found two little pieces of green glass, just tiny little pieces, and I brought those home and kind of smashed them up a little bit, And because I thought it'd be kind of cool to have a little bit of green. But you won't see the green so you have to put white paper and glue that behind the green glass. So it'll still stand out as green, because otherwise you wouldn't see it. So you take all the little pieces of broken glass in the teeth shape, and you glue these very carefully, super glue that down onto a small strip top and bottom, and then you glue it down in there, and you try not to touch the glass, or even after you do, and so you don't want to get any glue on the outside of the mirror glass, because that's what makes it cool. So I couldn't for the life of me figure out how to make the mechanism. I couldn't even think how it was going to work to begin with, but there's no way I can tell without having it in my hand. So I had it in my hand, and I was trying to figure out how I could attach like a piece of bamboo or something, or a piece of wood onto the part where you need to press and pull down so that I could make it punch out. And I just couldn't work it out. It could be done. So what I ended up doing was I took the broken arm, broken part of the puppet, and made it straight. Put a piece of corrugated black cardboard on it and stuck that onto it. So it's just basic. I still managed to make the tongue move a little bit. I got 2 pieces of polymer clay and made them into like little donuts. On the front part, they're too small for the front, for the mouth, for the tongue to fall through. And on the back, since I'm going to connect that to a piece of wood, they won't be able to fall backwards either. So it was kind of like making a boat. And I hoisted those 2 little donuts into the roof of her mouth, which nobody could see. There's not decoration there anyway. And I hot glued that on and got the measurement just right, so I could just make the tongue move backwards and forwards a little bit, which is better than nothing, really. So this thing is very light. But if the wind is blowing, it's like a sail. I think at the time when I was making this, it was like a whole month when I was obsessed with watching Chandler's Wildlife. I don't know if you've ever seen his videos. I highly recommend watching them. The design with the vertebrae coming right up from the head, and the big flaps. If I was going to do this the way she's supposed to look like in the movie or anything, I should have cut in to those big flaps. I didn't want to do it because I thought it was pretty just the way it was. And I think it was very heavily influenced by the Cobra design. The knives, the knives, the swords in the back are a Cobra design too. I just kind of felt like, the way her head kind of would retract. Retract and expand. I really felt like she was kind of in some way a reptilian reptile. When I did the underside of the crown, when I flipped the whole thing over to do the underside, and honey, this has got to be a quick job. It's not going to be too fancy. Definitely not add any more weight. I made all the underside out of foil. And I think I did like a bow design. It didn't really matter to me what I did. I wasn't that fussy with it, but I did kind of do like maybe a bow design. That's what it looks like to me. It looks like I was making bows, pretty little bows, and then paint the black. And then I covered the underside as well with the black, with shiny black contact paper, so it looked really pretty. For the elastic, I ended up using sewing elastic, the kind that you use for bathing suits. So I just cut out lots and lots of this elastic in long strips, and duct tape them. Use duct tape to duct tape them together and get them just the way you want them, and then super glue them all up. At one at this angle and then one at the other angle. And just that elastic, I think that elastic still looks better than some of the other stuff I've seen people do, even though I didn't use the jeweler bracelet elastic that I was playing with for so long. The neck and the side pods are part of the body armor. So when we start going down below the chin level, Or really, well, the side pods aren't. Um, I'll have to explain about the weight. It's always about the weight. People do so many different things with the neck. And I saw a girl wearing the heaviest queen crown imaginable. And the only way she was capable of doing it wasn't even half the size of mine. The only way she's capable of doing it is because they built this massive side pods so the whole thing can rest on her shoulders. I didn't need anything to rest on my shoulders. I can support the crown. It's light. The reason I decided to make side pods was because I didn't want to wear the sock on my face. You know, the morph sock. I just thought for my own comfort, not having the morph sock on my face, like over my eyes, over my nose, over my mouth, that thing. I would rather build a cage around my head and have material that I could see through and you can't on the inside. And just for comfort alone. So that's why I did the side pods the way I did. But before we go into the side pods, I consider that to be part of the body armor. So this is my crown. So that's it for the crown. Next up is the body armor. I get to squeeze into some black, shiny PVC.